Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Luxury Living, all things Florida. And I am Robert Dinan, your host here today. And I also have a wonderful friend of mine, Michele Gregoire. Michele Gregoire is with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about the real estate marketplace, especially in the multifamily and resort space. So it's going to be a great podcast. Stay tuned, and here we go. Welcome, Michele. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And, I know you're a Florida native, which is kind of unusual.
No, I'm not a native, but almost. I think
almost a native?
I think if you've gone to like middle school and high school out here, they kind of let you in to the club.
Okay, so you're not a unicorn.
I'm not.
You're not.
I'm not one of those. No,
you're not a Johnny Britton.
No,
okay.
I'm not a Johnny Britton. I'm not a Montgomery. I'm not a, I'm not a Heigl. I'm not any of that. That's why I still sound like a hillbilly, because I grew up in Texas before moving to Florida.
Okay.
But after college, I got into real estate right away when I was 21. And I went the property management route.
So 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I just look like hell.
No, how long have you been in the real estate space, honestly?
27 years.
27 years. That's does it feel like 27 years, Michele?
Yes.
It does. I know. A year in real estate is...
it's like dog years.
Yeah, 7 years in the regular world. So let's talk about what you did, because you did a lot of stuff out west before you ventured back to your home state of Florida.
Right. After college, I actually managed college properties for Nathan Collier in Gainesville and Tallahassee. He's one of the biggest landowners out there in Gainesville.
Indeed.
And then I moved out to Colorado, and I got a job out there, and I ended up actually working for Aimco at first, the largest REIT. Mm-hmm. And I handled all
Tell everybody what a REIT is.
A real estate investment trust.
Okay. And why would someone create a REIT?
Well, I mean, for them.
Well, I mean, because we're talking sometimes. Some people watch this and they don't. We use terms and sometimes we just need to explain them. Just broad brush.
It also depends on the type. I mean, the size and the type it is. I mean, this is a company that they owned properties across the United States. I mean, Terry Considine, it was huge. I mean, he had so many different development things happening at the same time. So, I mean, to get the return on your investment with a REIT, I mean, it just depends on, I mean, I worked for other ones that weren't, but it had a similar setup,
right? But
it weren't actually, I mean, hell, Aimco was on the S&P 500. It knocked American Airlines off at one point.
Right. So a real estate investment trust is really dealing when you have a super, you don't even need a super large organization.
Right.
But, most of the higher end multifamily resort, major property owners create REITs for obvious reasons.
Taxes. And also have other investors. I mean, there's other reasons
to bring other investors into the process too, So, if you're looking as a smaller group, I always say a real estate investment group.
That's where I worked after that. So after dealing with Aimco and doing all of the redevelopment,
that was an easy slide into that.
That was nice. We
right?
Work on that.
So we work hard here together.
Right. We worked together a long time. The Calhoun Beach Club in Minneapolis. We did the beach club down in Miami. Mm-hmm. It was $300 million rehab. Then I had some places where I was rehabbing units because they were down to toxic mold in like Plainfield, Kentucky. It didn't matter where it was. That's what we were handling. But then I was offered a job with a company, Westside Investment Partners, based out of Denver. And I ended up at 29 being their vice president of operations.
It's fantastic. Yeah, you really... You fell into a great spot there. You learned a lot from a lot of really smart people.
I still talk to the owner of that company probably 4 times a week.
Really?
It might just be sending memes, like for our mental health.
Right.
We don't seek therapy. We just send each other memes.
You send memes to each other.
Right.
Perfect. Perfect.
Well, I was very lucky to work with them.
Very lucky. I mean, that's most people don't have the opportunity to even talk to people like that.
No, he's a brilliant guy. He has JD from CU and then worked on Wall Street for a while, came back. We started buying up properties that were interesting. Some of them were beautiful. Commercial office spaces, HP Light Manufacturing Plant, Imperial Headwares Manufacturing Plant, Einstein Brother Bagels. I did their help with their corporate lease. But then we also had a big portfolio of cash motels and trailer parks.
I love the trailer park. I love the trailer.
They were
especially
mobile home parks. They were trailer parks.
Trailer parks, yeah. Especially if you own the dirt.
That's
owning the dirt is the way.
If I look right in the camera, if you want to make money, you own the dirt at a mobile home park.
Yeah, you do. And the mobile home park.
Well, we did it for redevelopment. They were going to build a children's hospital in Aurora.
Oh, okay.
So now if you ever go to East Colfax in Aurora, all the stuff that was out there across from
I'm heading there
Fitzsimmons-
next Tuesday.
Well, of course you are.
Yeah.
You can go out there. It used to be a bunch of like the Sands and the Dunes Motel. They were all, that was the gateway to the Rockies.
Right.
Highway 40, that was it. They didn't have all they didn't have 70 back then. So those were all the cute little motels. Well, then when things changed, they became people.
So those are like 1950s motels?
50s and 60s.
50s and 60s. Okay.
And same as the trailer park, some of them were built right after World War II.
Okay.
So they had like 540 pads. They were huge. So I had
Those
fun
are
stories.
huge. Those are huge because there's now with the trailer parks.
You have to have far apart. Now back then they were like,
they were. Yeah, you could you
could reach out.
Yeah,
and
you
touch.
could touch somebody's.
But it was interesting because you had to run them for years, and they made lots of money. But you had to wear different hats.
Of course. So that space has really exploded. The trailer park
because
space. All the big players have come in.
Well, they've come into that, and that's something that we did, almost 20 years ago.
Right.
But going into that and then redeveloping, working with JW Marriott, working with other places to come in to those spaces after we've run them and then taken them down. That's something else. When you're doing relocation of people, that's another thing that you have to learn because that's their homes. And if you're going to redevelop the land, you have to figure out how to help them.
Yeah, and did you? So with some of them, did they own their own properties there?
Did they
own their own trailer there? Or?
So some of them own their own mobile home, but we own the land.
Brought it into.
So
the
then,
land.
when you start getting towards the end of your project, one day I went out there to Trailer Haven Mobile Home Park with about 20 blank checks, and I bought a bunch of trailers in one day.
Okay, gotcha. Well, again, dealing with a large REIT, you have the ability to do those things.
Right. I was very lucky to learn.
Indeed. Let's redirect from the trailer park.
It wasn't all that.
No, it wasn't. Well,
you redevelop into like beautiful subdivisions and condos and things like that.
Yeah, I'm not putting down the trailer park by any means. Again, I love the trailer park
Me too.
opportunities.
I love the people that live in there too.
The people are great. I know I talked to you about that property that we were looking at down in or up in Georgia. What was the campground, right?
Right.
He's from Venice, that gentleman.
I know.
Yeah, crazy. That was just a great opportunity. That campground
Fantastic.
there. And there were pads there. That was just a fantastic opportunity.
That's why it was easy for us to work together. You had, Michelle, let me pick your brain for a second on.
I know. Of course, it was. I had the expert in hand here, right here.
No, I meant together.
I know, but I'm just saying for that particular thing, it was perfect because you knew everybody in that space too. So off the trailer parks, off the campgrounds, into the commercial space. So I know you've been spending a lot of time in the commercial space. Focus more now on the commercial space than you have been in the past.
That was my past, and then right,
just recent past.
Right.
The last year or so. Tell me a little bit about that. Where you're heading in the commercial space? What's happening in the West Coast marketplace with the commercial space? Are we supposed to believe what the media is saying with rents and how commercial is going out and commercials? Don't buy commercial. Commercials, it was the old and not the new.
I would completely disagree, and especially with different types of commercial. Industrial. They haven't built anything new industrial. We'll take Venice, for example, in the last 15 years.
So this is Venice, Florida.
Venice, Florida. Just to take that little small pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Any industrial we even have, they want to change that into mixed use.
Mixed use. So define mixed use for everybody.
Well, that way you're going to be able to build retail, multifamily. You have
you could
types of
have
things.
A store below and people living above.
Right, that concept
so
of retail with
condos, and or
depending
rentals.
on how high they can go. Right.
So what's a typical density in a Venice area?
Well, and that's another thing. They're going to try to redo that. Change the zoning where there are some like Manatee County. I can get much better density right now than I can in other areas in Sarasota County because depending on workforce housing.
Even better than Charlotte.
Absolutely. Yeah. Workforce housing that they want it in Manatee County. So, you can do a feasibility study and get that changed up to see maybe do 35 units an acre where before it was maybe set up for a single family or even just commercial general.
And Manatee's been very, very, very...
Very accommodating.
Accommodating.
That's the word. Yes. Accommodating.
Do you think Manatee County follow Sarasota County and that way? Because in the past, that's the way I felt Sarasota County was driving the bus, and everybody would follow Sarasota
right,
County.
even though that's the original, Manatee County, or was Sarasota, back in the day, the history. But now I feel like Bradenton, and along with Parrish and Palmetto, what they have
Which
done,
are exploding.
they have become their own little entity where they're not necessarily having to rely so much on Sarasota to determine what their decisions are going to be.
Right.
I've found that in the last maybe even 5 years. And then when you talked about, is the news correct with commercial space, 81 new businesses just moved into Northport since January.
Into Northport, Florida.
Into Northport,
which is
Florida.
South of Venice.
Venice,
If people don't know.
It used to be called Northport, Charlotte, till it was annexed into its own city.
Right.
And that is like the number 9 place to move to in the United States. And
now, you think that's because of that new development, Welland Park down there, or you think that's has a lot to do with it? I mean, and I know cutting, a couple of roads through there, Minnesota Beach Road.
Minnesota Beach. I don't know.
Town.
I know. It's a Boca Rail.
Yeah.
Northport was always kind of it's split in between 2 counties, which is unusual as well. So you've got Sarasota and Charlotte County. They didn't have their own schools. They didn't have everything. Everybody
Well, they suffered a lot there. They suffered a lot with infrastructure here, in what was it? I guess you want to say 2000.
Well, yeah, and then
2001, 3, 4, 5.
And they built tons of streets, and then they have zero infrastructure.
Zero.
You have tons of streets that do not have water, electricity, anything going out to them.
Oh, it's like little ghost towns.
Yes,
that you drive through.
Exactly, because developers just went out there. And now it's really becoming, there wasn't, all those kids went to one high school and one middle school. They went to Venice.
Yeah.
Everybody went to the one. And so, we had the 2 streets there.
It's a great school, by the way. Great school.
I graduated there. I don't know I don't know if that means anything. And I just feel like when developers did that, yes, there was not enough property taxes to pay to upkeep those streets. But then in the last...
Well, and that's, that's before all the builders, developers going to the counties and getting CDD.
Correct.
These guys were going in and putting roads down. Oh, let's put roads down.
And there was like so many different builders. And so you would find a house kind of like how Rotunda.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Rotunda started in the 70s. Ed McMahon was hawking it.
He was.
And now
he had a huge property there. Huge property.
And now now that's booming again.
Yeah.
And I think the West Coast of Florida is always going to be popular. And, Venice got taken over. There was a lot of homes there now. Welland Park being a planned
Venice,
community.
Let's talk about Venice for just 1 minute. When I bought in Venice in 2000, I lived all the way out there in Venice Golf and Country. How do you live all the way?
That's where my sister had her reception.
Yeah. How do you live all the way out there? All the way out there. It's not all the way out there anymore.
I lived in Waterford, and that was
all the way out there.
That was all the way. It was still in the city. It was right on the edge of the city limits of Venice. Yes. Mike Miller developed that neighborhood, but now I live in Welland Park. That's where I used to race my car. I have no business having a home there.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
But Welland Park is.
It's going to be number 6, I believe.
Yeah.
So you've got, Lakewood Ranch, the Woodlands. You have one in North Carolina. You've got a few of these big
Texas,
exactly.
Yeah.
The Woodlands in Texas.
The Woodlands in Texas, yes, you're bad.
And then, Welland Park, and they just keep adding on and adding on. And, the Matt and Mia had owned the land and then sold it off to everybody. But it was the Taylor Ranch.
It was Taylor. I know.
So I just think
Taylor
Northport, the people who would be able to buy a house in Northport back in the day, I'll say, you could buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home for $120,000.
That was always the thing. It was the teacher, the cop, the fireman who couldn't afford Sarasota would be in Northport.
Michael had a house in Northport, right?
Yeah, in Northport.
So that is where
but that's changed too. That market's changed too.
Well, I remember because then I did real estate closings, and so I can remember 3 years ago seeing a contract come across my desk for a house in Northport for $550,000, and I couldn't believe it.
Oh, tell me about it.
And then it started going up. Last year to buy a home in Northport, you had to make $131,000 to afford an average home in Northport. When you hear people say the prices have dropped, listing prices have dropped.
Correct. Not property values.
Not property values.
Right.
They've increased at 3%, not the crazy 39%, but they.
Yeah. We can go back to that gentleman that spoke at the the Sarasota Investment Group, right?
Correct.
That Ed set up. He was head economist for this Florida State University.
Right. He was the state economist.
Yes, and the state economist for the appointed position at the Chamber of Commerce for the state of Florida.
Correct. And then also was
economist.
a professor at Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State. So
where I went.
Yeah. And he stated, and everybody went back and forth with him, but he stated, if you really wanted to do a number for your numbers on property, is to use 8%.
Correct.
Use 8% for a piece of dirt in the middle of Florida is where he believed that the marketplace was going. And there's one thing he said that was like shocking to me. He said, if Florida left the union, we would be number 8 country in the world.
Correct.
Or something like that.
Yes. And he even had talked about, they were trying to figure out if the recession. Remember, he was looking
all the recessions.
And he said, there is a 100% chance that the United States will be in a recession, but only a 77% chance that Florida. And then he even got more specific with even our area of Florida, the West Coast. And so when you were looking at overall things, kind of going back to that thing with commercial, if you have 81 new businesses moving into one area,
that's where I'm going with this, because he stated the reason Florida is happening, and that's going to happen in Florida, is because it's business friendly.
Correct.
And being business friendly, we're seeing all the larger corporations move to Florida.
No state income tax.
No state income tax, but also, business friendly. Florida's not telling you as a business owner, because you opened up your business, you have to do this. You have to give them this. They need this amount of insurance. They need to pay them this amount. Then you need to pay us on top of that.
Correct.
Another tax, because we're the great state of wherever. We're great state of not Florida.
Not Florida. The great state of not Florida.
And pay us extra because, you can't do business in half these states.
Correct. I mean, even when I was out in Colorado, even back then, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the amount of money we would have to spend to even run an apartment complex, the extra funds that were needed that we were paying to local, county, city, state, that was beyond, and the things you had to do to keep track of those things. Like your maintenance guys would go to Home Depot or wherever, and you would have to keep track of every single thing to be able to pay an addition. You already paid taxes when you bought it. Now you're paying it again because you're using it at your apartment complex.
Yeah, it's nuts.
The amount of work that it took to even have a business there.
Right.
So I commend my
boss.
Again,
that's that was one of his major points, was like, that's why Florida is happening. That's why Florida is booming. You have all these corporations coming here that see the value of Florida. So when companies move to Florida, who's following are their employees, their managers, the upper level management. They're coming as well.
And even the age group. I mean, the joke was, the average age in Venice is 68, 69. Sarasota's 57. I believe Northport is around 40 something. Mm-hmm. But it got so much younger, even watching this when everything was locked down, watching these younger people move in. Look how many more families we have. The high school was built, the new one, and now it's already at capacity.
Yeah.
So, and the amount of schools, they're going to build 2 new schools in Welland Park as well, a K-8 and a high school by 2026.
It's neat. I mean, you need it.
You need it. And so you had a lot of different, I have a lot of clients right now that are looking for space for their business.
Yeah.
And it's difficult
to find
because, I'm going to find it for them.
Yeah, of course.
But it is difficult to find because, like you said, people are like, oh, no, commercials. Don't listen to that. And
you can't listen to half the stuff we thought was real. No. Anyway, so.
And also, we are the West Coast of Florida.
Let's be straight on that.
And even, we're separate from Tampa. We're separate from Naples. Our own little market here is different.
Right.
And when you are always in the top 10 of places to move to, you're going to have just a different market.
Agree. Each market is unique. And for someone to tell you what this is happening there and that's happening there and broad brush it is hard to do.
And putting it all in one group.
In one group is hard to do.
Oh, the Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, you and I both know because we both lived up in Tampa Bay. And there's a huge difference between St. Pete and Clearwater. There's a huge difference between Clearwater and Dunedin.
Oh,
or
please.
Palm Harbor.
Yes, of course.
You can't lump it all into one.
No, you can't. You can't. And, and to go back to The Economist, and I can't recall his name off the top of my head. It's terrible.
You would have said it to me
didn't,
just a few minutes before.
Poor planning for this podcast here, folks. But
we don't plan.
Yeah. He also said, when I'm giving you that 8%.
Right.
I'm talking again about dirt in the middle of Florida and use that as your starting point. But he's like, I'm not talking about the Keys. Longboat Key, Siesta Key, Clearwater Beach, St. Pete Beach, where we're seeing 42% increases
Correct.
in properties, this year.
We even saw that in Northport. It was
Yeah,
a 39%.
you saw that in Northport. Yeah, but that was back in the boom.
Right.
Obviously, we're talking about, that's the residential side of things, but we're
Right.
talking about commercial today. But I still think that, those things that are being said in the commercial space, just like you said, you strongly disagree. I disagree too. It's just what's being pumped out there. And, I think that there's too many people, like you said, looking in the commercial space now for business. People are leaving wherever they're leaving to come to Florida for
Correct.
whatever reason. Most people aren't retiring, right? I mean, I'm seeing more people 60 plus who have had a career doing X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be, who come to Florida and want to start a business.
I have a new client that exact same way. He did a lot of development, did a lot of, buying and selling of resorts, wants to come down here. He's still in his 50s, retired from that, wants to do another business,
Yeah.
wants to move down.
So where are you seeing the challenges in the commercial space? Where are you seeing the challenges in the space in that multifamily space and or the larger commercial spaces for bigger businesses and in that, niche market that we like to work in, the resort space? What are you seeing, as some of the challenges there now? Besides, we all know inventory is an issue.
Right.
I mean, we have to hunt down the deals now. We have to attack I shouldn't use the word attack, but go after the owners
Right. It's
of
not
these
like,
properties. It's not like everything is just free marketplace.
Right. It's not like, oh, look, let's open CoStar or wherever we're looking for, listings. Yeah, we're still going to do that.
Yeah.
But
for those who aren't familiar, CoStar is the
I call it the MLS.
the MLS of commercial.
Right. It's like
LoopNet,
where
CoStar.
you look for, but it is more of a hustle where you are calling up because you might have somebody who wants to open up a resort. They don't exactly know where, because that's another thing. They want to move to Florida. They see it on the news. They don't quite know where their business should fit in. So it takes people like us to have those conversations with them and say, hey, I know you were saying you wanted to be in this market, but actually for your particular business model, you might have better luck over here. Maybe this county versus the other one you were looking at.
Like that large restaurant lady we were talking to from Canada, right?
Right. Where is she going to, maybe the price point would work for Lakewood Ranch area, but it would for Parrish.
Right.
There's different things that you can help them with in that market. And I think that is also a challenge if you are not working with the right people that have that information. We have a lot of transplants here. Yes. The two of us, we've been here a long time.
Yeah,
we've served hard time in Florida.
We served hard time in Florida.
I've been here since '89. Hell,
and it's going. What you're saying there is, you get this all the time in residential,
correct,
multifamily investment and commercial space. I'm looking from Pasco County
down
to Naples,
right?
And okay, do you understand how what of a large area that is? And to go back to what we were talking about earlier, you're trying to direct the people to certain spaces that work best for their businesses,
right?
But people don't know Florida,
no.
And then when they're searching, online, and everybody starts their search online, either it be commercial, residential investment, or multifamily, people are online looking first.
But sometimes you have to have a real person that has been in the trenches that knows
100%.
Like you can't find everything online. I mean,
that's my point. Especially in the commercial residential
you'll have a street
space
that's different than a mile away where you might want to be, and so you really have to have. I mean, I hate to say it, and it sounds like those. Well, back in my day, I don't want to sound like that. Or I've done it, and I know newer agents hate when you say you've done it a long time, or you've lived in an area a long time. Sometimes experience.
They'll be a long time too if they want to stay in the business.
Right.
It's all about time
they hate to hear that. Oh, well, back in you know what? I've learned a lot. And living in this area, hell, I learned how to swim at the Island House in 1978 on Siesta Key. I mean, I've been in the area a long time. Yeah. And when you have, same as you've been over, almost 25 years in this area. Plus you came down before then.
Right, of course.
We want people to make money. That's kind of how we always been. It's not been about, let's just get them the deal and walk away. We want them to make money.
No,
whether they're an
always
investor,
relationship based, and of course make the money.
Right, but we also don't want them to make a decision like, with emotions with that either. We want to, hey, sometimes it's a little tough love. Yeah. I know you wanted to be here, but I want you to make money.
Right.
And maybe I want you to get everything that you want. Let's look at different things in this area, and maybe there's a lack of. I mean, now Benderson is building more industrial. I think it'll be all set for next February, perhaps. But in certain areas and up in Manatee and Sarasota County,
Clark Road.
And then there's also that one up
So
further
not
north.
Clark Road, what do we call that? Stickney.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
So-
the place that's been sitting there for I mean, I called on that 10 years ago.
I know.
What are you guys doing with that? Can you tell me? Yeah, don't tell me, I mean,
Right.
what are you doing? But they cleared that lot. Well, I mean, it had to be at least 6 years ago. It's been
Correct.
cleared. I mean,
Correct.
it's like,
And it depends on who's, gonna.
what they're going to do. What's
Right.
going to happen. But
Also keeping up with things like that. The two of us, we do stay up. We go to a lot of investor meetings. They even let me into county commissioner meetings and things like that.
You seem to be the go-to girl for some answers there sometimes.
Well, we tried
the last meeting you were.
and they let me back in.
Yeah.
Even after I may have told them that they were wrong, the new county commissioner.
Yeah.
But just
wrong, but with facts wrong. You were right with the facts. I mean, it's not you were.
if you're
calling
going
them
to talk
out.
to a whole room of investors that own portfolios of properties and you're going to brag about accessory dwelling units, well, you can't build those unless you're homestead.
Right.
So you're kind of like, read the room.
Read the room. Yeah, read the room.
So that was unfortunate.
Yeah,
but
it was.
I had to raise my hand.
Yeah, indeed. Of course. But again, that's
They're like, who let the nerd in here?
yeah, time in. So going back to the commercial stuff and looking at commercial properties, when I say commercial now, I'm going to be, I always say commercial because it's multifamily. Right.
And it is. That is commercial.
It is commercial. People don't think of it as commercial. They think it's multifamily, it's residential housing, whatever. It's
absolutely commercial.
It's absolutely commercial space. Do you feel, obviously we talked a little bit about Manatee and a county and what they're doing there in Bradenton. Do you feel you're going to see more things happening down south? I mean, we've talked about several different projects that in the works.
Correct.
People are trying to get permits. People are trying to make some changes. Do you see things happening in that, in the Sarasota space for multifamily more than you would have thought in the past? I mean,
would
I'm
say
specifically.
Sarasota
You
County.
want me to get specific?
Yes.
Venice.
Okay, absolutely. And we'll call it also North Venice.
North Venice. Okay.
It's Nokomis, folks. They can call it. Yeah.
Nokomis.
The amount of multifamily that is either already built, being built, or has plans has blown my mind.
So when we're talking about apartment buildings, when we're talking about multifamily too, so
yeah, I never thought that there would be that many apartment complexes.
Right, being put in, right.
Right, growing up in that, I hate to say that again.
Especially
growing up in that
681
area,
coming right off of that. I mean,
681, there was nothing.
Nothing.
It's a feeder road to go from the highway to the interstate to the highway. But now there's all these developments. But you would have to have moved to Sarasota to find an apartment.
Absolutely.
Like that is where, there were a few, but it was like Seminole Apartments and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Or Falls of Venice.
Citadel on the beach, right by the airport
right
down
by the
there,
airport on
the
Bates
Venice
Avenue.
Airport,
yes.
yeah.
So there wasn't any of these. Now there's luxury apartment buildings that are built off of either Jacaranda, off of Laurel Road, 681, like you said. Even they have some apartments that are 55 and older.
That was
the one on
next thing. That was going to be my next thing for you. Yeah, the one on Jacaranda.
Right, and the rents, I blew my mind. Even though I consider myself to be somewhat intelligent and I understand economics, but it still blew my mind because when you are used to something that has gone on for 30 years in a place and all of a sudden things have changed dramatically in the last 5 years.
What kind of rents are they seeing?
One bedrooms were almost $2,000.
And that's in a luxury.
And they were like 700 square foot.
700 square foot.
We're not talking
small.
like,
right.
a huge space.
Not waterfront balcony on the beach.
No,
right.
by the highway.
Yeah, correct.
Excuse me, the interstate.
The interstate.
Not the highway.
That's the interstate.
And, over by like motels and like over by Holiday Inn and Fairfield Inn back in there where even the things that they have built commercial by those that's where they were able to build them. We've got now there's tons of Starbucks and now we have more. Everything.
Once a Publix goes in, right? We say
That's
that in Florida.
Yeah.
Once a Publix goes in, start buying. You're probably too late to start buying anything.
Right.
Buy it if you're an investor.
Right. And there's certain
look into
areas that we could hint and tell people if you have questions, in that near Welland Park that maybe we'll develop.
Indeed. Yes. And there's a lot going on in that space too.
South Sarasota County.
Dearborn Street.
Absolutely. I love Inglewood.
I love Englewood. Of course I love Englewood. You know that. Englewood's my favorite.
I can't wait to move there after my kid graduates high school.
Englewood is fantastic.
It's our favorite.
It is. It's a great spot. And Dearborn Street, there's the development the mixed use development that's going to happen there. is huge.
Some of the older restaurants, they've already sold out, like Lustanza closed, and they're going to be a Mexican restaurant.
Right, they were.
I love it. I love
that was a great place. That was a great place.
I'm a sucker for.
It was a great place.
Sometimes I don't like change.
Yeah, and across the street, the music place.
Yes.
I mean, I had a deal on that music place a couple of times, and we just couldn't get to the finish line because of price.
And Snooks on the Water.
Another one that slipped through fingers. Yeah, let's talk about that marina for a second, because I love the marinas and I love that space.
I know, we've talked about marinas forever.
That place, Snooks on the Water, which was a
dive.
It was a dive bar.
But I loved it.
A dive bar with a tiki bar outside, live music. I mean, no air conditioning, open windows, open seating, on the water. Had 4 different bays, I guess, for boats to be stored, out of water storage, and then docks.
Right.
And then it had more docks behind the restaurant itself, but with riparian rights out for like 200 more docks.
Yes.
So I always said I was trying to get the marina people, right? We talked about this.
Even the other one in England.
Get the marina. Yeah, get the marina people to buy this, because this place, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
Right. That place could have condos in the backside of the property, on the water, which is already zoned for, and zoned up there too. You could go four stories plus underneath parking, and you could also go out for 200 more docks into the water. So I always said, everybody talks about Sarasota, Marina Jack, right? Marina Jacks. That would be the South Marina Jack.
Yes.
I mean, and it's going to be. What's going to happen there is probably going to be that.
Right. Things we saw even with that other marina in Inglewood. I mean, we have always talked about that for years and years, about what that development could be like. Even stuff on Lemon Bay that you would never would have thought.
Oh, please. I mean,
because it's 9 units an acre, excuse me.
Yeah, there's the one lot, off-market lot on Lemon Bay. I mean, it's people can't wrap their head around it when they're not from here.
Correct.
And you don't have a lot of people that are here are so entrenched in other projects, that's just sitting there.
Or it's also, they grew up here, they're like, there's no building on there.
I know.
What do you mean? It's still hard for us to even grasp that my home is where it is. And we have trouble sometimes, us old timers in the area.
Well, I get it. It's a great place to live. It's a wonderful
very lucky.
place to live. We're super lucky. Super lucky.
And we're lucky to help people find spots for their businesses, whether it's resorts, hotels, multifamily, commercial, industrial. It's kind of our thing.
And do you think you're seeing more? Let's not talk about the big investors or the big REITs. Are you seeing more people, like, for example, let's talk about that lot, Lemon Bay, right?
Right.
We won't mention where it is, but Lemon Bay on the water, less than an acre, zone for 8 units.
Right, because it's not
a full acre. It's 0.9, so you could do 9. Now it's 8. Doing the math on that thing, it pencils out for me every time.
Every time. You're right on the water.
I know, and you could put dockage out there too.
Can.
People come and look, and they're like, "Oh, well, there's the old duplex over there."
But yes,
because that place doesn't even have stucco on. I mean, those places have been there from the 50s. I don't even know the same guy is living in them. I mean, it's like, just wait. It's like, for now, look straight ahead.
Right.
Look at the water. Look what's there.
There's only so much land
a mile from
on
the
water.
You're a mile from maybe a little bit more than a mile.
To Beach Road, right.
To Beach Road. And you're on Manistota Key.
To get to Inglewood Beach, Middle Beach, Blind Pass,
and then access where you are on the Intracoastal for a boater or a fisherman is phenomenal.
Right.
You're right out.
Yep. I'm seeing more, even, I don't want to call them smaller investors. I hate that term. But they
single individuals,
right, or
partnerships, smaller groups,
right, smaller groups, maybe 2 to 4 people. Right. Before, there was a lot of, we've seen wholesaling as well, but where they maybe want to start to have a portfolio, whatever that might be.
Right.
A lot of them are looking at maybe to own 4 units, but have several of those.
Right.
And they are coming from up north. They don't know where those should be. They have to have people like us that are like, hey, this is where the rental market should be, you know.
And I think, too, for a lot of them coming from, the Northeast, they're gauging everything on Northeast pricing of construction.
Correct.
Which, I hate to say, it's less up there than it is down here. And that's a fact. People come from New York, New Jersey. How is it that much? But if I'm penciling that deal out over there on Lemon Bay, I penciled it out at $400.
Yes.
$400 a square foot for 8 units. And that was including infrastructure build up.
Build up.
You know,
We had thought like a little, something special for the 8 units.
Yeah, something special for the 8 units.
Little amenity.
Pool, dock, at the end of dock, gazebo. So, and every unit looking over the water. Every unit underground parking.
Right.
Or under building parking, not underground, under building parking.
We can't go underground.
We can't. We're in the water if we're underground. And to me, if you're looking at those numbers and those prices of that, what do you see?
I know.
Price per unit on the water over there. I mean, it depends. To me, the low end, you're at 900 a unit.
Right.
Looking at the water there, yeah.
It might be a skosh less. Because
I would list them at 925.
I know you. I know what you would do.
And I would take 830.
Yes.
But pioneer pricing, right?
Yes.
You do pioneer pricing at 810. You're more than breaking even on them at the price per square foot that we had them planned for. But it's people are scared to do this.
I also think people you hear I hate to say it, you're going on social media, you're going on the news, they hear insurance, they hear hurricane, they hear commercial insurance has gone up. Yeah, that's why it's so smart to have people that actually know. A lot of times if they're buying into condos, what kind of development can I do with this? Or condo-tels,
right.
And knowing all the differences between those and how to work those deals where they are making money.
Yeah. And the condo-tels are just crushing, especially the boutiques.
Yes.
The boutiques for sure. I mean, they're just doing so well for investors. I mean,
yes.
Incredible. And for the developer himself.
Right.
There was one developer on, I won't use the names, but it's Clearwater Beach, boutique building, 18 units, said to the people, hey, if you're going to buy these, I'm going to sell them to you for X, but I'll give you $50,000 for the year for your unit, and we'll just manage it and rent it for you.
Right.
People were like, $50,000. That's fantastic. Cover my taxes, cover everything. I get the place for free. I make some money. The guy's doing 150 a unit after he's paying them as 50. So, I mean, people boo. People were like, oh my God, what are we doing? So, their year ended and obviously they opted to rent with, without him, right?
Right. And there's not that many condo-tels.
There's not.
I think the Venice, we call it the island, even though it's not. Hate to clue people in. It wasn't an island.
No, the Army Corps did a good job though,
in
making
1966.
it Venice Island.
Yes.
Making it 1966.
I know people always ask, why do they build the high school on the water? I'm like, they built the water next to the high school. Yeah, they built the water next to the high school. High school was there first. Yeah. You've only have one there. That's a true condo-tel. And like 3 on Siesta? And then St. Pete, obviously has a lot more.
Well, the smaller, older 1950s.
Well, the stuff like Treasure Island area.
Yes.
Casa del Sol.
Yeah, Reddington Beach. But there's the developer that's done some stuff on Clearwater. He's doing 4 more boutique condo-tels on Reddington Beach.
But they're different than what we think. They're different than East Coast Florida condo-tels in my mind.
No, they're phenomenal.
They're not Daytona condo-tels.
No, they're phenomenal. I mean, these, the one down on Clearwater Beach, which we've done some deals in, that one, has the rooftop deck, has the pool, has the full restaurant and bar up there. It's not, you're not getting, a sit-down dinner, but, burgers, chicken sandwich, that kind of stuff.
Tiki, that's what
it's
people want.
It's tiki bar,
Florida.
Yeah, and views of the water, plus workout areas.
If you want to go have fancy, go to the Don Cesar.
Yeah, you go down the road. You go
to Burns.
Yeah, there you go. So, answer everybody's question about commercial. I think we've answered it pretty thoroughly today. That the commercial space isn't failing, isn't falling, is not going.
Businesses still want to be here.
Yeah.
A lot of flex space is wanted here.
What's flex space so everybody understands?
So that you'll see it where it looks like it'll have offices in the front, typically in a warehouse in the back.
Okay.
So they might be doing either light manufacturing, just storage, and then they have their offices in the front.
And you see a lot of people doing drop shipping from those too.
Yes.
Yes. A lot of big companies do drop shipping. I can't remember the names of those companies that do drop shipping. But a lot of them do that out of those centers, and people own those places. So those flex spaces.
Yeah, those are like
huge.
condoed out places.
100%. Right. Yeah, 100%. So, Michele, I thank you for your time, your expertise. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure as always.
Michelle's going to be joining us more and more often now, so stay tuned. Again, this is Robert Dinan, your Florida Realtor, here with Florida Luxury Living, all things Florida. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.